Hi, friends. It's me, Juesto Enrico, host Talking with Famous People, and the hero of today's story. That's right, it's not actually me, the hero. The hero of today's story is, among other things, this Northern Lights marijuana. Before I get into the groups issue, I do want to speak briefly about this. Every time I see it at a pot store, I get it. I grew it back in Santa Cruz a long time ago, and I loved it then. And the last time I got it was a couple years ago. I loved it then. The Northern Lights number two, which is a little bit different, but I'm excited to try it. I have waited to try it until this start during the stream. Hi, Susanna.
Hello. There's like no people in here.
This is not the normal room. This is
I
host
know.
Eric's room. I just started a stream from this room and put the link there in the stream. And I did so because I thought there's no reason to stream a room that's already being recorded. Makes more sense to stream from a room that's not being recorded. And then when I'm
Do you
not
want?
streaming, if people want an equivalent experience, they can go to the rooms that are being recorded. Anyhow, I enter this with a topic, namely groups, individuals, moral agency, and personality type, namely how they correlate with each other. So, one thing that's been bugging me lately is I've been thinking, seems like most of the problems in life, that are systemic problems worth mentioning, are problems of some individuals ascribing group identity to other individuals and justifying decisions on those conferences. So an example of this would be MGTOW. MGTOW is a group that it stands for Men Going Their Own Way, and it's basically a bitterness towards women in society that I've encountered, but it dresses itself up as a solution to the systemic problem that women pose. Or to the extent that it wishes to be less reductive, it might say Western women. Okay, well, of course, Western women aren't a group, they are a label to, it ought to be used to eliminate some people from who you're referring to. Like, if I say Western women, it means I'm not talking about men. It doesn't mean I can ascertain anything particular about the women that I'm talking about. It just means I can eliminate men from the possibility of things that I'm talking about. So this whole notion of MGTOW is predicated on the idea that all of womankind can be reduced to group descriptors, common behaviors, patterns, and habits and such. The same thing is true that happened earlier today when I was at work and I spoke with, we were talking about the LD topic, which is that, tell me about the right to housing. And Abraham said, but don't you agree that the government should do something to help the homeless? That it's not their fault that they're homeless, that it's because they weren't afforded same opportunities and they had hardship and yada yada yada. Well, it's the same thing. The homeless is not a thing. It's a way that you express how you fail to see these individuals as individuals and have deemed them less than human, such that they may be part of a group that needs to be helped. Well, the homeless, I mean, they can't help themselves. They're homeless. They're the homeless. Well, okay, first of all, some people, in theory, might choose to live outside. I don't know if that's the case, but let's say somebody did. And you try to tell them about all the help they need. Well, you're assigning to them all sorts of assumptions that you may or may not be justified in making. Well, you're definitely not justified in making the assumptions, but which may or may not turn out to be true. It's kind of irrelevant. And I would suspect that the most common cause of homelessness is not systemic social inequity or anything like that. It's addiction. Because if you're a full-blown drunk, you can't keep a job, you're not very useful to society, and pretty soon you're just going to not be able to sustain yourself any longer in the normal minimum level of comfort. But note, nothing anyone else can do can help that person to quit drinking or quit doing the drug that's got them in the streets. They have to come to terms with that themselves. That's really what homelessness is all about. Sometimes other mental illnesses. Either way, I'm not saying we should sit here and blame and judge them. I'm saying don't rub salt in the wound by reducing them to infants whose lives need to be managed by a third party. So this whole group thing leads then to the question of moral agency. Why is it bad to reduce people from groups into parts of their group? Well, it's bad because it removes from individuals not only individuals being infantilized, but other individuals who are also being roped into this. It removes them from their moral agency, such that because people like Abraham, it just seems to make so much more sense. Well, but obviously we got to do something about the homeless. Obviously, we got to do something about the homeless. But of course, that's the problem. What they want to do involves another false assumption, which is first they assume that the homeless are a group they can reduce to their traits and then infantilize. Second, they assume that we are a group that they can speak for. And in fact, we is not even a group. We comprises in the United States geographical communities comprised of individuals that have varying relationships with varying other individuals, some of whom represent the state, quote unquote. When the state acts, it does not act as we. It acts as its own entity. It's an entity in the whole ecosystem that's independent of its purported link to the populace from which it emerges. It acts as its own agent because every government agency has its own mission, it has its own purpose, it has its own goals and interests. If you are an employee someplace, whether it's an employee of the government or anyplace else, then you act in the interests of that agency first and foremost. So if I'm at the Department of Health and Human Services, I'm always going to be in favor of more budget for the Department of Health and Human Services. I'm always going to be in favor of the kind of work we do here, which is making some sort of programs, and doing some research on things and looking into how we can solve the problems for the homeless and stuff like that. Those individuals are fighting on behalf of the agency and what it does without ever considering that they can't possibly be advocating for a good thing if it doesn't support itself. If in fact the Department of Health and Human Services created more value than it took away, then it wouldn't need to be publicly funded. It would be a private business. And if it can't create more value than it takes away, then what the fuck are we doing having it in place in the first place? It's a net loss. So
what are we talking about?
the title of the live stream indicates, it says groups and individuals, agency, and personality type, which I haven't gotten to yet. So let's talk about the moral part of it, the moral agency part. Say people are engaged in manifesting moral agency is simply to say that individual human beings engage with the world in ways that have moral impacts, not always. That's why they're distinct from other kind of impacts, right? If I pick up a piece of trash off the ground and put it in the trash can, I've done something concrete. It may have a moral component or it may not. It depends why I picked it up and threw it away, right? If I picked it up and threw it away because it's my storefront and I like to keep it clean, then there's not a moral component. It's self-interest. If I pick it up because I'm a good Samaritan and I just like to pick up trash when I see it and if it's easy for me, just to be a nice guy, then there's an altruistic component. If I pick it up because a cop watched me throw it to the ground and I'm afraid he's going to give me a littering ticket, then it's a practical matter. It's I better do this or I get in trouble. It's certainly not behaving morally, but it's behaving prescriptively in the sense that one's action is prescribed by a presumed outcome. And then most things in life, though, aren't that cut and dry. They aren't just a piece of trash on the ground. They're complex decisions that involve multiple individuals and multiple lines of impact wave, lines along which impact waves will travel. So the issue then of moral decision making is really an issue of how do you be a human in the world, and our manners of moral decision making depend on our personality type. As we finally get to that part, what do I mean by that? I mean, I do moral decision making through okay. Yeah, I got distracted by chat there. So, yeah, people in MGTOW aren't bad men. They're men who aren't getting laid. It's that simple. And that makes you weird. I know. I know from plenty of experience in life. And if you are, all of a sudden everything's peaches and cream. I don't know what to say about it. It's a biological imperative. I mean, we sort of switch topics here for a second to what it means to be a man in the world versus what it means to be a human in the world. It's a really different experience being a man or a woman in the world. And there is definitely a lot of hierarchy shit that you have to exist with whether you want to or not. By hierarchy shit, I mean explanations of how or why a given individual ought presume to take, where other individuals might presume to be unworthy. And the thing is, a lot of the stuff you'll see online, whether it be written or videos about like how to pick up chicks or how to deal with women or how to get laid or whatever, how to get in a relationship, how to find a girlfriend, any of that kind of stuff, it tends to be focused so much on confidence. But I really think that's missing the point. It's like, okay, it's true that you've got to carry yourself as though you were entitled to the things you want. But you can't fake it, obviously. It's impossible to fake the appearance of entitlement without actually being entitled. Is that Bo?
Yeah.
How's it going?
What do you think about alienation as affect of state doctrine?
Okay. Alienation as affect of state doctrine. So, alienated from what? Who's alienated from what? Who's alienated from what?
We're alienated from our cultural essence or our cultural presence.
Who's alienated?
anyone that's indoctrinated into a state
Am
is
I alienated?
essentially, huh?
Am I alienated?
From all your consumers or your producers, yeah.
I don't feel alienated.
Do you like to talk to? Well, you like to talk to people, of course, but I mean, we're alienated in the sense that we don't get to actually participate in the exchanges that foment the processes that develop humanity.
Okay, so if you mean that most people are excluded from the
We're
political
ice.
process, if you mean something that actually has meaning, like most people are excluded from the political process directly,
Or even, yeah, even the exchange that have the relativity to understand these things.
no.
I think some people don't have the ability to do that kind of stuff.
I was just getting into that. Different ways that people deal with their moral agency according by type. Okay?
Yeah.
Wait,
Not
what
even
we
type.
what
No,
we
don't do type. Don't. I don't like that.
but that's what the topic is. Okay?
Okay.
So look, it's also the only correct way to answer your question. So the answer is people express moral agency in different ways. And so we might think this person is quote unquote alienated from or somehow disengaged from political processes that we think they ought to be engaged in, which is odd. But in reality, what it is that people are engaged in their own moral agency in its own fashion. Some people choose to engage their moral agency in a group level. For the most part, those are the most wicked people because necessarily, unless they're trying to dismantle state control, then they are actually making things worse by trying to implement more coercion against people who are not like them because they don't understand that their particular values are
But don't. But don't you
representations of
think
the
that
individual nature, not
don't
of
you think
anything
that
true.
don't you think that coercion is a necessary element of discipline?
No.
I think that discipline is a good thing.
I think discipline's a good thing too. I still don't think coercion is a necessary component of it. I think you
I
do.
think that's an essential part of it.
No, it should work like this. Right now, I gotta go to class pretty soon here, and I gotta tell the kids. I'm not gonna tell them probably today, but they understand. I tell them this is that if they're not happy, if they're bored, they don't want to be here doing the thing they're doing right now. They're welcome to go outside and play. I'm not going to force
This
anybody.
is
Stop.
this
Let me
is what I
finish.
mean in
Stop.
alienation.
Stop. Let me finish. Now, it is important to note that in a well-functioning system, individual autonomy is prioritized, and instead of causing fracturing, it actually causes unity because the kid who has the freedom to choose to go outside whenever he feels like it and notes that his friends are choosing to stay inside and get the shit handled because they want to win, all of a sudden their priorities change. Even if they're FE or they're looking for interpersonal fun, they're going to find it through work that I think is purposeful because they know that the work I think is purposeful is the work that's most likely to get them to achieve what they actually want themselves, which is to win.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
admit
real motivation.
I admit that it opens space up for the possibility of communion, but I think that the alienation of the state is the idea not that we are somehow separate from everything, but that the very essence of the state separates itself from reality in such a dramatic way that it subjugates us.
Okay, well, the thing is, the idea of the state is, in fact, the mechanisms of the state.
But
So
all of it, all of states, all of it, it disenchants us from reality.
Bo, as with before, I'm not going to allow you to say random sounds that you think mean things that don't actually mean anything. Okay? So we're going to actually talk about words that mean things instead.
All right, whoa. Just
Spacey?
let Eric work. Let Eric work for a second. I'm on your side here, Eric.
Oh, okay, fine then. That's an example of an arbitrary evaluatory metric. Okay, when you have an arbitrary evaluatory metric, you're gonna base your reaction on whether it's the one you want or not whether it conforms to some sort of standard. Now that's as an ENTP or an INTP is going to, not you, Bo is an ENTP as always, but an ENTP will necessarily evaluate a given situation, its moral implications, one's choices, and other factors involved with it using TI, and NE. What are the possible opportunities here? And in which ways do my possibilities conflict with what I already know in terms of axioms or heuristics that allow me to produce behavior that's consistent with good outcomes and the good. So the thing is, this is a very intellectual exercise in general for the ENTP if it's a considered decision to be made. If it's in the moment, obviously the ENTP has to rely on other means of determining moral behavior, and I think mostly it's FE, where if we see somebody's being looks like I might have dropped the stream for a second. I don't know. Hopefully it comes back.
All right. He's gone. Eric's back.
I'm back. Okay, so.
No, but you're right. Discipline and coercion are not at all the same thing.
Okay, so Thomas Reitz asks, am I haunted by the specters? All right, so what Thomas is referring to here is a debate round in which he and his partner ran this ridiculous CAPK, basically. It's a capitalist critique that says, in order to subvert capitalism, which is assumed to be a desirable goal, ridiculously, but I understand that that's the assumption I was working at because the other team didn't oppose that notion at all. They didn't actually critique the things they ought to critique. They critiqued the things they were prepped to critique and the way that they were prepped to critique them. So, you know, these guys ran, Thomas Reese and his partner ran this thing called like Marxist. I mean, I don't even know what you fucking call it. Marxist specter haunting K or something like that, where it didn't mean anything. It didn't mean a goddamn thing. But the gist of the argument was, we're not going to actually subvert capitalism directly. It's impossible. But we have to allow those elements of Marxism which were pure to stay here and like suffer visibly or something, and cause thereby capitalism to question its own moral validity and to seed the future revolution that will come later thanks to these hauntings of Marxism or something. And then basically say, and if you don't account for these hauntings, these specters, then your shit doesn't count. Your shit doesn't have any impact if you don't account for the specters.
Sounds like an extremely FI argument to me.
It's a critical theory argument. Okay, so
it is a critical theory argument. I hate critical theory.
Oh yeah, fucking ridiculous. Of course. I mean, I'm sure Thomas Reese could explain it better than I just did, and I bet it sounds better when he explained it.
Well, I know what you mean, but it sounds like he's missing that capitalism is an amoral system to begin with.
He's not missing anything. It was in the midst. Look, it was in the midst of a round in which it was. He. It's not like he just throws it out there as, and here's an argument. It was like, this is in response to this. You know, it was like that kind of shit. But I mean, the thing is, it's because the first team. I mean, I don't even remember what the other team was running. Then the other team ran this. Like halfway in the round, the other team said, "Okay, forget everything we said before this moment." Not even halfway, like 2/3 of the way in. They say, okay, you know all that shit we said all this whole time? Okay, forget that. Now what we're going to focus on is how great it is to change. And that's why I just kicked all my shit. And that's why I'm starting this new thing right now. And that's why Severance is good. Because change is good. Everyone loves change. But at the beginning of the round, the guy said the best way to get me to change and stop running this app is to vote for the neg team. So even if I bought his change thing, it wouldn't have mattered because to buy his change thing means to apply what he already said in the round. Of course, his change thing says, no, forget about what we already said. But if that's the case, then, I mean, that's why there's Severance, for Christ's sakes. That's why Severance is a thing. That's why Severance is a thing, for Christ's sakes. Anyway, that's debate stuff. I know that most people watching don't understand all this jargony stuff. I wasn't trying to get into all the jargon, but it was a really interesting round. And it's weird that I can't even remember what they ran before they severed, which shows you how effective severing is. Yeah. So Thomas Friesen and his partner were badass. How far did you guys get? Did they? I want to know. Did they get a trophy or something? Did they? Win anything? My sixth graders got dead last. They got dead last in the whole fucking tournament. My sixth graders. I thought they won a round. They didn't. They lost them all and they got dead last.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Are you very invested in your sixth graders?
Yeah, that's why I went and had them do that. It's good for them. It's really good for them because they're going up against people like Thomas Friesen and his partner who were fucking. They were in the same division as Thomas Friesen and his partner.
I mean, I don't know much about debate politics, so
There aren't really politics to it. It's just sixth graders competing against high school students have some trouble.
Well, like I don't know who Thomas Friesen is, or I didn't before this.
Well, I mean, I'm referring to him as the guy in the chat, and I've told you he's one of the debate. He and his partner were debaters at Berkeley.
Okay.
I judged him. In a round. It was like the last round before quarterfinal, last round before breaks.
Eric, do you want to see it? Do you want a new personality diagram or a personality test?
No, in fact, I gotta go to work.
Oh,
Thank you for watching this live stream that didn't really finish the topic because it got a little sidetracked. But you know what? If you love getting sidetracked like this, if you like to see others get sidetracked, if you enjoy rambling discourse that actually touches lots of different points that are quite insightful sometimes, and sometimes kind of not insightful. But anyway, if you like the idea of participating in that and or celebrating its glory, then go to the same thing as at the top here, appear.in/ instead of host Eric, put TWFP1 or TWFP2. And those are open 24/7. They automatically record and upload to YouTube so that you can see your own conversation shortly thereafter on a YouTube channel called TWFP Raw. Go do that right now. It'll be the most exciting thing you've ever done in your life, or your money back. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. Live stream ends shortly.